got a few questions. Questions. Where do you get your protein from? Isn't it expensive to be vegan? Questions. I got a few questions. Haven't we evolved to eat meat? It's natural. I got a few questions.
Hello, welcome to another episode. Thank you for joining me. My name is Manny and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about the limitless of your capacity to succeed and to accomplish your goals. Let's get started. How do you not give up? How do you stay motivated? How do you keep going when every sign is telling you to go the opposite direction? I know that's common experiences for most of us, where we feel like, of course, the easy road is better, so I'm going to take that one. Or, of course, the easy road is better, but I want to take the hard road because I feel like I can get more out of it. But what do you do when you're in that crossroads where you're just so overwhelmed and so frustrated and you're just feeling like there's nothing left? I'm empty. I don't have anything left. I'm going to tell you a little secret that if you're in that situation right now, you probably won't understand it, but once you get out of it, you will. Your energy level, your capacity to succeed is limitless. It really is limitless. And the only way somebody cannot give up on something, even if the world is pushing up against them like a bulldozer, is to know that your capacity to succeed, the capacity of your energy levels to succeed, to fulfill your desires is limitless. And just knowing that it's limitless, you will pull just a little smidge of energy and motivation, even in the face of so much frustration and so much annoyance and nuisance, and I'm over all of this kind of energy. You will pull a little bit more energy out of yourself, and you will get through this. Because we always get through it. What happens is that when we're frustrated, it goes into our headspace. And we start to, if we involve our emotions into our headspace, sometimes our emotions are a little tricky because they are going to mirror back what we're feeling. And that vibration, whether it's sadness, frustration, anger, happiness, whatever it is, it's going to exaggerate it and make us feel like the situation we're going through is our entire world. And there's no other world beyond this. But just take a beat, just one beat. Take a deep breath. No matter how frustrated you feel, fight just enough to take a deep breath and exhale. And in that little moment, a little bit of consciousness sneaks in and shows you just how beautiful and big your world is. That it isn't comprised of just this one moment. This isn't to say that your feelings aren't valid, or that moment isn't frustrated, or that moment isn't overpowering you, but it is just to show you that you have so much more than just this moment or just this experience. And you're capable of so much more. So in the grand picture, you actually are limitless. But in that moment, you feel like you have such a small capacity to succeed because you're at your wit's end, or you feel like you tried everything. And how you get there is, again, you push that idea into your headspace, which vibrates with your emotions, and your emotions are strong, especially if you're really in touch with them. They're strong, and all they want to do is make you feel valid and make you feel good about yourself by making you feel like you're not alone. And so if you're feeling sad or if you're feeling frustrated, you're going to get an emotion that mirrors that. And then what you got to do is just take a deep breath, and it's going to release all the energy that's attached to that. That's including your emotions, just long enough so that you can see the total picture. Even if it's just like a flicker of the picture. And then take another deep breath, and then take another one. And the more deep breaths you take, the more beats you take. And every time you take a beat, you open up your mind to see the full picture. And it just takes you away from that moment just long enough so that you can realize that your life is bigger and it's beautiful and there's so much joy and love. So if you're ever feeling like you're feeling alone, you're feeling abandoned, you're feeling like there's nobody in the world who cares about you, and if you get so much into that space where you feel like that's consuming your life, I really do want you to know that you are limitless. You have the capacity to do whatever you want to do. Here's the deal. We can't choose what life throws at us, but we can choose how we deal with it. And some of us, we let that madness consume us, and it becomes our world. And the thing is, it isn't your world. It became your world. And if you take just some deep breaths, I know I keep repeating this, but I know the power of breath. The power of breath allows you to stop thinking. And what it does, it takes you away from that thought, that stream of thought, just long enough so that you can see your intelligence. You can see how big you are and how beautiful you are, and your capacity to be motivated. And in that moment is where all the ideas of who you are come from. It's where the ideas are flooded into your brain, is when you start to realize just how creative you are, how intelligent you are, how lovable you are, how amazing you are. And it's in those moments that enact real change in the world, real change in your world, in your life. So every time you feel frustrated, even if it's that small frustration, just take a small, deep breath and release the frustration. I'm not saying disregard the emotion, just push it up against the wall so you can stare at it. So you, the observer, can look at the emotion as if it's separate from you. Because when we allow our emotions to consume us, they become who we are. And we live our lives through those emotions. So what I'm basically asking you to do is allow your emotions to come as they normally would, but then release them. Don't trap them inside you, because we share the same emotions with every human being on earth. That means that those emotions belong to everybody, and you have to free them. You have to release them from their cage, but from within your body. And the emotion itself is free, and you're free. But if you hold too closely, too tightly to that emotion, two things happen. You become imprisoned within that emotion, and then the emotion itself becomes imprisoned within inside of you. And it just stays there and festers. And in every experience in your life gets filtered through that emotion. And if you're in a frustrated state, everything that you do in your life is going to be filtered through that frustration. And so if you're ever in that state, what you can do is you can try practicing it on smaller events in your life. Like if you're ever stuck in traffic, just take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath in. And what's going to happen is your mind's going to expand within that breath just long enough so you can realize how big the world is, how big your world is. You know, that you're not confined to this one emotion of frustration because of the traffic, anger, almost feeling like the world's out to get you. Because those are real feelings. Those are legitimate feelings that we feel. But the problem lies is when we allow those feelings to become our identity and to consume us, and we trap them within our bodies. So that when you take a deep breath, you free them just long enough so you can see yourself outside of that emotion. And I'm only telling you this because we go through so many beautiful things in our life, and if they don't go according to our plans, we tend to focus on the things that went wrong. And although that's not a bad thing, because as humans we're problem solvers and we see patterns, but we also have learned to allow those moments to consume our lives. We allow those moments to identify who we are and to almost tell our story and our narrative. A quick example is when I was younger, I was in an abusive household, and for so long I allowed that abuse to victimize me. And as I got older, that became my narrative, that became my story. I felt I deserved more because of what I went through. I deserved special treatment because I survived that event. And when I didn't get that special treatment, I felt almost like I was being deprived of what was owed to me. And what it did, it stopped me from being able to have relationships with people that weren't able to acknowledge my advancements and my progression in my life. And I relied so heavily on the validation of other people to validate how strong I was, because I got through those situations, that when people didn't do that, because they weren't even aware of my situation, that I got frustrated and I collapsed in on myself. And I felt like I couldn't have relationships with those people because they don't get it. They don't get me. They don't get the situation. And it wasn't until I got into my mid-20s when I realized that story made those experiences made me stronger, and people see that strength, but they don't know where it came from. And it's my job to tell that story, not from a place of victim, but from a place of an educator, someone who just lived an experienced life. And I just wanted to share that you can overcome anything if you first recognize that you're not a victim anymore in that situation. And when you step outside that victim energy, because I let that victim energy consume me, it became my narrative, it became my identity. I trapped that inside me so deeply that what happened was, when somebody came up to me in their current life and was victimized in their current life, it was almost impossible for me to see them as victims because I already owned that. That was my narrative. You can't take that from me. I wasn't sharing it. And so the moment that I decided I can't be a victim anymore, that I'm actually strong and I am who I am today because of those experiences, I freed that victim energy. And now when people come up to me and they're having circumstances in their current life that they're being victimized, I can see them. I can see them not only because I experienced it, but because I freed it. And I didn't have to own it. I didn't have to feel like they were taking the victimization away from me by stating their victim situation. And it really, really helped me connect deeper with people. And it's still to this day, because, we all have hang-ups and we all deal with situations where we think we're over something, and then along comes a lesson that life throws at you and you realize, whoo, I am not over this. And so I will just suggest to anybody that's dealing with something, an emotion for way too long, is to take some deep breaths and just release that emotion just long enough so you can see yourself beyond that emotion. I do encourage every person to allow their emotions to come. Feel them fully, deeply, and completely, and then release them. And if you feel like you're having a hard time releasing it, just write the emotion on a piece of paper and put it on a wall. And then I want you to write, I am experiencing, and then whatever the emotion is, so that you can see yourself outside of the emotion. Because I promise you, you are so much more powerful and so much more limitless than that one emotion. But for some reason, you keep replaying that emotion in your head over and over. It gets to the point where you're doing it subconsciously, and the universe is just throwing things at you that are just mirroring that vibration, that energy. And you're getting circumstances in your life that validate that emotion because you believe it so deeply. And then eventually, intellectually, you stop believing you're that, but on a subconscious level, you still feel it. So if you feel yourself in a pattern or a loop of drawing in the same type of people or same type of experiences, try to think of the emotion behind the experience itself and see if you're still attached to that emotion so deeply. And then take a deep breath and let it go. Let it go. It's hard to believe that you can be attached to an emotion that you can't even intellectually feel at that moment. But I promise you, our subconscious mind is controlling a lot of what's going on in our bodies and what's drawn to us vibrationally. And so if you feel like you're stuck in a loop and a pattern, don't think about it. Don't think intellectually, because that's not going to help you. You got to think on a deeper level and say, what is the emotion attached to this situation? Let me give you an example. If you tend to be drawing in a relationship or people in your life that are always frustrated, that are always finding problems with their life, ask yourself, how does that make you feel? Whatever that feeling is, whatever they're feeling is most likely inside of you, and you're feeling it too. And they're trying to draw that out of you unconsciously so that you can resolve that issue. I know this is more like psychology and therapy, But just, I think that we all should have the capacity to heal ourselves on some level. And if we can't, then we can reach out. But first, let's try healing ourselves. And so what you want to do is just find the pattern of the people that are coming in your life. And you're like, why am I always drawing in people who all just want to complain? And you got to ask yourself, by complain, what does that feel? And what is that feeling of complaining? What is that to you? Is it someone who is needy? Is it someone who is victimized? And then you got to find that energy inside yourself and take a deep breath and let it go. And when you let that go fully and completely, you will start to see the change of the types of people that are drawn towards you. Because remember, people are only drawn toward the same things. We mirror one another. Like attracts like. And so that's what's usually happening. And intellectually, sure, you would say, well, I'm not that way. But on a deeper level, you've forgotten that you never let that go. And then you can start to see your limitless potential. And I only say this because most of us intellectually know how to succeed. It's just when we try to apply it and we hit these snags, we fail because we give up, because we feel overwhelmed. We feel frustrated. We feel like we've done this already. We've already been down here. But what we're not doing is we're not pulling out the root of the problem. The root of the problem isn't another idea. How do I draw in better people to my life? You know how to do that. You can probably go to a seminar. You can probably go to an outing where people are intelligent, successful. You know how to do all those things. But you seem to be drawing in people in your life that aren't those people by nature. And so the only way to do that is to get it by the root. And the only way to do that is to find the commonality within yourself and let it go. But you first have to admit to yourself that you're going through this. And sometimes it's really hard because we don't want to admit to ourselves that we're sabotaging ourselves, that we're the ones creating this problem in our lives. We're the cause of the situation. And here's the deal. Like Will Smith said, you can't control how your parents raised you, but you as an adult are in control of how you fix it. And that's true. You can't control the paradigm of your past life, of how your parents taught you how relationships work, how love works, how money works, how success works, and all these good things. But you can control how to fix it as an adult, because you're the only one that can do that. You're the only one. We can just give each other tips and tricks and ideas, maybe roadmaps, but ultimately you're the one that has to do it. And the only way to do it is to know in your heart you are limitless. And if you don't feel limitless, something is blocking you. And that's what we got to get to. We got to get to that blockage. So no matter how intellectual you are, no matter how many ideas you come up with to make money and you keep failing, it's that failure we need to focus on. We need to focus on that part because that's where the root is attached to. It's not attached to your ability to come up with ideas. It's attached to your ability to not overcome the failures. That's where we're at. And it's a lot, but take it all in. Again, take everything I say like a grain of salt. If it works for you, apply it. If it doesn't, toss it out. I won't get offended, I promise. But I hope you learned something from this because I'm going through it now and it's really helping me. And if you have any other suggestions or amazing tips and tricks on how to overcome failure or to reach your limitless potential internally, please just let me know. Send me a message. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great week, great day. This is Manny signing off.
I got a few questions. Where do you get your protein from? Isn't it expensive to be vegan? Questions. I got a few questions. Haven't we evolved to eat meat? It's natural. I got a few questions.
It's vegan.